Hello and welcome to the January 30th edition of the Gold Goats and Guns Short News. My name is Tom Luongo. We've got a lot to talk about. And today I want to talk about Brexit again. So yesterday, let's get settled in here, folks. Yesterday, there was a major session of Parliament in Britain over what to do with Article 50, right? And Prime Minister Theresa May's withdrawal deal that she negotiated with the EU. Call this thing a withdrawal agreement is to do violence to the word withdrawal because it doesn't look anything like withdrawal from the EU. It looks like permanent slavery to the EU without any of the benefits of actually being in the EU. Not that there are many, but at least Nigel Farage standing up on the floor of the European Parliament on a regular basis and giving them what for 6 minutes twice a week or twice every 2 weeks. That's at least entertaining enough. I don't know that it's worth $39 billion a year, but, hey, government's expensive. What are you going to do in this day and age? Okay, so let's go through what happened yesterday, and then I'll give you some thoughts as to what I think is going on. So there were 6 amendments that were proposed. Only 2 of them passed. 4 of them failed. The important 4. If you're on the side of Brexit, which I am, because I want to see more countries, I want to see smaller political units. I'm one of these anarcho-libertarian guys. I like smaller units. I like smaller political systems. I like people living under as few levels of government as possible because that generally maximizes human freedom. And certainly the Brits getting out from underneath the thumb of the insanely bureaucratic EU is a good idea. So there were 6 amendments. 2 of them passed. The first one, the one that passed, was the amendment to change the rules on the Irish backstop, right? The situation on the Irish border, that they sent a directive back to with Theresa May to go back to Brussels to renegotiate that, and with some guidelines to make it better. Fine, make it not permanent. Still not good enough apparently for the ERG group who voted against it, Jacob Rees-Mogg and those guys. But whatever, it's something that Parliament could actually muster a weak majority over. So that's that. And then there was a little bit of virtue signaling about, we really don't want a no-deal Brexit, so please come back to the negotiating table. Yeah, pull the other leg and place jingle bells. It's not really that important. The other 4 failed, and these are the 4 that are important ones that didn't fail. 2 of them were about extending Article 50, one of which put forward by Labour frontbencher Yvette Cooper, who was really trying to undermine Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, by trying to push for a 6-month or 9-month extension to Article 50 till the end of the year. That failed miserably. And then there was another one, I think it was for a shorter period of time. That one failed as well. Corbyn's amendment to pledge for a permanent customs union with the EU failed as well. And then the last one was the most dangerous one, which is the one put forth by Dominic Grieve, in which Parliament would wrest control of the process from the government. And that failed. So what really happened here was, and I was listening to Nigel Farage, his radio show from yesterday, this afternoon, and it's pretty obvious that a lot of these Labour MPs that are in Leave districts, that are now representing districts that voted Leave, went back to their people, back to their constituencies, and got told what for. And had to go back to Parliament and stop working their own agenda and realize that if they betray this process, then they're not going to have a job much longer. Now, this is kind of what I told you was going to happen the last time we discussed Brexit in my last video on this, last couple of videos. I think that things have been pushing in this direction now for weeks. I've said this on my articles over Strategic Culture as well, and over on my blog at goldgoatsandguns.com. So in every stage of this, Theresa May has rightly perceived the way the political winds have shifted. And they've shifted in her favor to be able to stand up and say, look, If you want to deal with the EU, you have to give me clear parameters with which to go back and negotiate with them. I did my job. I did my part. I held up my end of the bargain. I gave you a deal to vote up or down. You voted it down, fine. Tell me where it doesn't work for you, and I'll go back to Brussels and renegotiate. They'll negotiate. But we've never given them any reason to negotiate with us. So, not going to. That's just the way things work. It's the way the EU works. They like to listen to you talk and then present your points and then look at you as if you just sung the Swedish national anthem and go about their other business. That's what you have to understand about this process. So, but May rightly understood that the Tory Remainers and the Labour Remainers didn't see eye to eye on what form of soft Brexit they wanted, meaning they could never get a consensus, a majority of Parliament to come together with a plan and say, this is what we want. All they're going to tell you is what we don't want, so that they can be against something, so that they can try and play politics and try and weaken May, so that either Labour can come to power or they can get rid of her after Brexit's done and blame all the bad stuff on her, and then somebody else can come in and save the Tory party or whatever they're thinking. And the entire time, Theresa May has been getting stronger. I hate to say it, but it's true. And at this point, I also believe that May is looking at the situation practically. I may be wrong about this. She could still betray all of this at the 11th hour. But if anybody is the shepherd now of a no-deal hard Brexit, it's Theresa May. I know that's a sobering thought, but that's where it is. What she's done now is she's forced all of these people off of their virtue signaling and their poser positions, and she's split them. She's fragmented them all. And now Labour is fragmented. Now the Tories are fragmented, and everybody is done. They all got a sound thrashing by their constituents that are not doing the people's work, because none of them were willing to be the ones to say, yep, let's throw out the rule book. Let's throw out 400 almost 400 years of parliamentary rules and the way this government's supposed to operate, and all in the service of bowing down to the EU, which the majority of the people don't want them to do. It just goes to show you that at a certain level, the permanent political and bureaucratic class do have limits to their power. You still have power, folks. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but you do, because they're scared of you. They're scared of the Brits going back to the polls. They don't even think a second referendum will work at this point. I know it won't work. Why they're working so desperately to get everybody under these unelected oligarchies. Why they don't want the Brits to leave the EU, because they know that once that happens, they're going to have the ability, the people of Britain will have the ability to deal with their government directly. And it's better than and for them, as bad as and as dysfunctional as Parliament is, it's still better than being ruled by the European Commission, which is unelected, unassailable. It's tyrannical. It's crazy. So, and that's why they're working so hard here to basically nullify elections here in the United States. Vote harvest after the fact, ballot harvest after the fact, bus in millions of illegals to change border states blue and create an electoral college blue wall. All of it. All of it. That's what this is all about. It's all about making sure that that when people have a vote, that the vote turns out the way they want it to. And the lesson of Brexit is that no matter how much control they think they have, all an illusion. Because at some point, silent majority stands up. People who have been dispossessed and disenfranchised and dispossessed, they eventually have enough. They get off their behinds and they say no one more time. And it's really all we have. So bravo to what happened today in Britain. What I think happens next is we're headed for a no-deal Brexit article, and a no extension of Article 50. Or the EU is going to start negotiating and caving quickly. And when that happens, once the EU really starts to negotiate and they start to come down off their hobby horse, if they don't, remember, they don't have to. And they don't want to, and they may not. They may make the decision that letting the Brits leave without negotiating with them is better. It sends a better message to the rest of the countries within the EU than it does to negotiate down and keep them somewhat tied in. Because once you make this kind of all or nothing play, once you push all in, there's no way to get some of your chips back. What they're hoping for now is a split pot. It's not going to happen. Someone's going to win here. And it's looking like the British people are. I hope I'm right. All right, this has been the Gold, Ghosts, and Guns short news for Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. If you like what you heard today, please give a like and subscribe down below. It would be fantastic to add you to my stable of crazies who tune in to the Crank Hour 2 or 3 times a week. Remember, there's live streams on Monday nights at 8 p.m. and Friday nights at 8:30. I take questions. I have usually about 20 minutes worth of prepared remarks, and then we open it up for open questions and open commentary. We discuss all of these things, geopolitics and the rest. You can also find my work over at strategicculture.org and over at my personal blog over at tomluongo.me or goldgoatsandguns.com. You guys take care. You have a great day. Be well and keep your stick on the ice.